Hi everybody, we're doing a new episode of the RevGEN Reply today, and we're going to talk through a couple of interesting articles that we found on a couple of different news sites related to, obviously, the industry. So we're going to start with one from Skift. So this one just came out. It's called Expedia Chairman Barry Diller Rips His Bloated Company as All Life, No Work. So this article kind of goes on to talk about how in December, there was a big shakeup at Expedia, and a lot of the, top brass were let go. And so now, basically, Barry Diller and then it sounds like Vice Chairman Peter Kern are now in charge, essentially. Which is kind of funny because later in the article, there's a point where Barry Diller talks about how he's just now understanding how Expedia works. And it reminds me a lot of that.
He's been chairman for how long?
Over 10 years, yeah.
Which doesn't understand how the business works.
Yeah. And it's funny because it reminds me of, if there are any It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia viewers out there, that episode with the warthog. Barry Diller, to me, definitely kind of seems like that kind of character, out of the woodwork, back to kind of shake up his company.
Kicks Mark Oakstrom out and says, "What?
Did I just do your job for you?" Reading more of this article here, let's see. Here are some of the highlights from the earnings call. So apparently this earnings call was wild and crazy. While some people have argued that work-life balance at fellow Seattle company Amazon was all work and no life, Diller said that at Expedia it was all life and no work, which is kind of funny. He admitted that it's an enormous exaggeration, that there are wonderful employees at Expedia, but added for several years we really lost clarity and discipline.
Yeah.
So
let's stop there, because that's kind of funny. Expedia definitely does seem like a company that took off, made a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's a tech company, and there probably is a lot of fluff.
Yeah.
In there,
I think
right?
there's a lot of lifestyle, feel good kind of stuff behind their marketing and all of that good stuff.
But even from a hotel facing perspective, right? I don't quite know where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
Put that out.
So the next point was Expedia was a bloated organization. So Diller said that Expedia can beat the competition for years to come if it can get back to a pragmatic focus, cut costs, and simplify operations. So apparently he thinks that they were a quote-unquote bloated organization. And he said, I mean, not because people were lazy, but over the years, just chasing the tail of growth and all that. We're just adding people and complexity and all of this stuff until, frankly, very few people could figure out what the hell they were supposed to be doing during the day. So I think that's probably a big issue at a lot of these tech and startup companies, right? Mm-hmm. Is they want to bring a lot of people under the umbrella, and then the bureaucracy gets huge and you realize oh crap, what do I even do here, kind of thing. So it sounds like maybe that was going on in Expedia.
Yeah. And I mean, even we're such a small company, and you can it's really hard to rein it in because you'll have one great idea. Mm-hmm. And I think in a small company, you're brought back down to reality and you say well, can we afford it? We probably need to grow a little bit more before we take that need on.
Yeah.
But at a big company like Expedia, it's probably oh, this is a good idea. Let's hire a whole team and get 10 software developers and plug them in. So
for sure, yeah.
I think it's smart of Barry to kind of go back to the basics.
Mm-hmm. And this is the funny point from earlier. Number 3, Diller admits he's just really learning the nuts and bolts of Expedia, which is funny because he's been chairman for, it says, more than 2 decades. So to admit that he really started to understand the intricacies of Expedia after the executive departures was kind of funny.
Yeah, but I get that. I'm still trying to figure out the nuts and bolts of RevGEN. So,
exactly.
Barry Diller, Bill Davios,
basically
the same. We should probably
same.
get together and have lunch, Barry.
But I think I kind of know what he's going for. To me, it sounds like he's going to come in and slash costs. I mean, later on in the article, they talk about how they want to get their run costs down $200 to $300 million per year, which I assume is a really, really big drop from what they're doing right now. So, yeah, it sounds like this company, Expedia, takes a ton of money to run, and it's probably top heavy, and they probably have a lot of departments and stuff that may not be as profitable.
Yeah. So I think what Barry's trying to do is go back to basics. and figure out what is Expedia in the end, which is basically websites where you book travel and a big marketing organization.
Yeah.
Right. So if they focus their efforts on putting the dollars in the right places and building really good platforms where people can plan trips, they're going to go there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of people forget like how much of these OTAs is just all marketing. Like so much of it is marketing, because if they don't have super, super high marketing spend and they're not constantly on your TV screen and they're not constantly being advertised to you, you do forget about them. So I think that that's like one huge aspect that people forget about is if they don't do the marketing spend, then you don't book on Expedia anymore. You go with either booking.com or you go brand direct, but I don't know if you agree with that, but that was like, I think that's a huge part of any OTA is just, it seems like it's almost all marketing.
I think the other thing that they need to do is Expedia used to buy a lot of travel websites that were doing well. All right, so they bought like hotels.com, they bought Trivago, right, Hotwire. They bought all these companies, Orbitz, Travelocity, and I think for a long time their strategy was let's just own this entire space. Yeah. But the space is pretty complicated now, and especially with Google adding to that complexity, I wonder if we'll start to see them like trim down in some channels. And the one that I could think of that would probably be the smartest, in my opinion, is Trivago. So like they put a lot of marketing spend behind it over the last few years. I think they thought it was going to be super hot, and it hasn't taken off at all. Yeah. And I think the reason why it's not taking off is because it's not really needed. Because for sure. Google, right? All Trivago is a meta search site for hotels. Why do you need that? Because you have Google. Like Google owns meta search. So like give up Expedia on Trivago. Focus on other channels that make more sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and one interesting thing here, moving along to a couple of points down the page. Number 9, Diller told Google senior management to stop taking our profits. So apparently he told the senior management of Google exactly how he felt about this, and they have implored upon them to basically stop actually taking away the profits from the businesses that are probably one of the main contributors to their advertising revenue.
So I feel like we should like act out how that phone conversation went.
Yeah, I'll be Google, I guess, and you can be Barry Diller.
Or I'll be Barry. I'll be like, hey Google,
what do you want, Barry?
You're taking all our money, and you know I'm spending a lot of money, and it's just not fair.
Well, that's too bad. Click.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's honestly how I think it went. Right? They're probably like, yeah, we value your business. You're right. We'll think about it. Like, click.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what Barry Diller says to Google. They have to pay.
Yeah.
They have to pay the
because Google's the only game in town. Google's the only game in town as far as like.
I actually think I heard. I don't know where I heard this analogy, but Google is basically the tax man for hotel bookings now, because OTAs have to pay Google to get bookings, brands have to pay Google to get bookings. Everybody's playing in meta. If you're not, you're gonna lose. Therefore, I don't know. You kind of run into some maybe antitrust conversations for that reason, but whole nother tangent. Anyways, I think Barry's somewhat smart with Google to say like, hey, don't bite the hand that feeds you. But at the end of the day, he knows he's not going to really win that fight. Yeah. Which I think they speak to what their real strategy is, right?
Yeah. So another point from this article is point 10, leaning away from Google and meta search. So Diller said the Expedia group will lean away from Google and meta search and aggressively build its direct business through app downloads, generating greater customer loyalty. So what they're trying to do is, instead of playing that meta search space, which they know isn't working right now, they are going to try to get more people basically to download the app. Because the more people that have the app, then those customers are now playing within that environment. They're outside of the meta search environment. They're booking within this contained Expedia app, which is huge. That's definitely what Expedia wants out of all this. So what are some of the benefits, and like why would Expedia want to do that? To me, it's very obvious, but are there any reasons that you can think of?
I think it's a smart strategy. I mean, the question is like, how are they going to get more people to book the app? So
Yeah.
probably maybe we'll see like television commercials saying download the app.
Yeah.
Obviously, from a market manager perspective, they're constantly getting hotels to load member deals, mobile deals that are very app friendly. And so if you can get a lot of hotels to buy into that, the consumers will slowly figure it out that, hey, maybe I can sneak some deals on these mobile sites.
Yeah.
So that could work out. Like, let's say Barry Diller's strategy works. A lot of people download the app. Is that good or bad for hotels? And is that good or bad for revenue managers?
I think in a lot of ways it kind of reopens a lot of the Wild West environment that we used to have a couple of years ago. So there was, a couple of years ago, or 5+ years ago, parity wasn't as much of a thing. So it really was like you could run different promotions on different channels and not really ever have your wrist slapped, to use that term. But I think that I think it's going to be kind of like a speakeasy model, right? So all of these different channels, they're going to have the veneer of parity across all their different channels. And then if you have the app on your phone, you can open up Expedia, and then within that environment, then it's going to be kind of like the Wild West again. So I think hotels are going to have different promotions that they only run on Expedia and only run on Booking.com because they're way more fenced now. If you've got millions and millions and millions of people with just the Expedia app, then Expedia has more control. And like I said earlier, they're outside of that like Google control bubble. Basically.
Yeah, and I think like from a revenue management perspective, ideally you want people booking brand.com, going direct for obvious reasons that you don't have to pay the commissions. However, there are going to be a select group of people who are loyal to Expedia, that are loyal to Booking.com, that are loyal to Hotels.com. So I think as a revenue manager, you kind of need to isolate those channels and figure out like how you attack them. So like, would I recommend loading a promotion that's publicly available on an OTA? Absolutely not, because that's going to show up in the Google meta search and other channels, and you're going to shift brand.com over to that OTA. In very specific times, if your hotel really needs business, is it okay to sneak a member deal, mobile deal as these apps downloads get more popular? Maybe.
Yeah.
Because at that point, the way I look at it is you are stealing from other hotels. You're probably not shifting business from one channel to the other. That being said, it's kind of like game theory, right? Because I think the hotel would win in that situation, but the industry loses. Because if enough hotels do this strategy of these mobile deals, member deals, the consumer gets smart and you start shifting back from brand.com to OTA heavy. And I think some of the weaker brands kind of are stuck there right now, where the consumer knows, why would I book on that brand site? These hotels always have discounts on the OTAs.
Yeah.